Hey, welcome back. This is episode 3 of our social media equipping. We're getting into the rules of engagement. Don't forget to check out the first 2 episodes if you haven't, and processing questions at the end. We'll see you on the other side. Hey friends, welcome back. It's good to see you again. My name's Austin. If I don't know you, hope you're thriving at life today. Today we're talking about rules of engagement online, specifically around our social media usage, what we put out, what we take in. And again, this is part of a broader series. And so if you haven't checked out the previous episodes, want to make sure you do that. And so today we're shifting into rules of engagement virtually around social media. Now, I don't like rules. And so maybe a good way to put this is if you don't like rules either, you can think of like, what are some trends of engagement online? Because at the end of the day, the internet doesn't have any type of governing overlords. And our social media, while there are these big tech platform giants with different rules and regulations that maybe you've run into before, as a generalization, the internet is a pretty free place. And the way we engage is kind of just what it is. Not right, not wrong. It's a little bit messed up in a lot of situations, cancel culture, fake news. There's a lot of stuff out there. But we, as believers, I would suggest we have to engage this with a level of wisdom and caution. We can't be left out in the cold as the technological age continues, and we can't just assume we know everything about it, because both of those are silly. And so you think about in Matthew 10, when Jesus is telling the disciples as they go out, they need to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. And so we want to try and navigate that as we start in these next 2 episodes, learning how do we navigate social media, what we put out, what we're taking in, so on and so forth. So let's start with some rules or trends of engagement. Okay, the first thing that I think is critical for us to know is that we have to understand that the information we put out is in front of the entire world. Okay, I'm not saying the entire world is looking at your page. What I am saying is the entire world has access to what you're putting out, whether you want to give it to them or not. Now, there are some settings, you can do privacy and all that, which is great. Again, getting back to purpose, check out the first episode. But we have to understand that we're engaging in the social media world. We're having a conversation. If we don't understand this, then we can get in situations that make us look pretty foolish. Okay? Well, when something gets communicated, it's like, well, I was telling that to a friend, or that was a part of a broader conversation. It doesn't matter that that was true. What matters is that you understand that that thing that you put out, that video that you shared, that link that you put out, it's in front of the entire world. So it's not like a normal relationship where we can understand each other's tones, inflection, our background with each other, our relational equity. None of that exists in front of the whole world, because you can't do that in front of the whole world. Okay, so that's the first thing we have to understand. The second one is that there is minimal to no nuance in our content. Okay? Again, building on the first trend, because it's in front of the whole world has no ability to know everything about you, to understand where you're coming from, to understand your experience. So when we put things out there, we have to understand that virtually it's pretty black and white. Unless you put out, a 1 to 2 hour message talking about this one thing where people can watch that. For the most part, when you share a link, when you state something online, when you jump into a conversation in the comment section, all of which is normal and totally fine, which I think we need to be doing, but we have to understand that that person doesn't understand or have the ability to nuance where I'm coming from. Okay? So because of that, we get to our third trend. Okay? The content is filtered through past experience. Okay, and what I mean by that is in a normal friendship, you're just chit-chatting, people can understand, they understand, well, you're just a pretty direct person, or we're just chit-chatting in person. Hey, I need to ask some probing questions because I don't totally understand that. Online, our interactions are getting filtered through not only your experience, but the whole world's past experience. And so let me try and explain this. Okay, take something like just the church as a whole. We stayed around here, around Antioch. The church is the hope of the world. Okay, content-wise, I can make that claim from the Bible in tracking through the life of Jesus and the apostles in the New Testament. However, there is somebody online in the world that got sexually abused as a 10-year-old inside of a church. That person is filtering my statement or my comment through their experience. And it's drawing out emotion. Again, hear me out. It's not right or wrong or something that we need to not engage with, but it is something that we have to understand when we are putting out content and engaging virtually. Okay, maybe something a little less could be like we just had our first presidential debate, and I go out and throw my comments online and I'm like, oh man, candidate A totally owned that dude. And I could have my mom over here or a friend over here or some coworker over here who didn't necessarily watch the debate, but they got online that morning and they watched the headline and it was like, oh, candidate B totally owned candidate A. And that person is now interacting with my content through their past experience. Good, bad, ugly, it's what it is. That person may or may not engage with me. That person may or may not have a conversation with me. Irregardless, I have to understand that that is the trends or the rules of engagement online as I'm putting content out. You tracking with me? Again, it's easy to be like, oh no, I'm afraid of social media. What if I say something stupid and somebody gets offended? Everyone is offended. Okay, that's part of the information age. It's one of the things that we as a church are trying to navigate, not only in our own hearts, but helping others. But we have to understand the trends when we are putting content out, how it's getting received, how it could be received. Not because I'm afraid of what you think, but because I want to be a wise serpent, bringing the kingdom with clarity and accuracy, saying exactly what I mean to say, so that I can stand before God with peace. I can have peace with all men, so on and so forth. Now, again, hear me. We are not trying to be afraid of what people think. We're trying to understand the implications online. All right, cool. The fourth thing I want you guys to hear here is there is minimal to no backtracking online. What I mean by that? I mean, if you're, a millennial, I want you to go back to when you first got your social media and filter through some of the things that you said, some of the things that you put out, okay? Because I'm guessing you've grown up a little bit. I'm guessing you've had some life experience that's helped frame who you are. Now, again, because you're putting it out in front of the whole world and because they can't actually nuance your information, they can take something that you said in 2014 and be like, this dude's an idiot. And they're probably right because they don't understand that there's been a lot that's happened in your life since 2014. And so as we are engaging our content, we have to understand that it is incredibly difficult to backtrack what we put out. So hopefully that puts some fear of the Lord of like, oh man, I need to make sure this is exactly what I'm actually wanting to do before I just share a link, before I just put it out. I mean, look at, different politicians and different Hollywood superstars or different social influencers and how often they put out some tweet or some post that gets screenshot and taken by 100 people and it was only up for 23 seconds and they pulled it down because it was dumb. They can't backtrack that. And so when we get online and we're just throwing stuff out, like, this and this and this, you can't necessarily backtrack, and people are going to take that and manipulate it or filter it through their experiences. So again, in closing, I don't want you to be afraid of the technological world and social media. I want us to embrace some fear of the Lord around this and say, okay, I want to be as wise as a serpent and as innocent as a dove as I engage online, with my intention clear, understanding the pitfalls, understanding some of the trends or rules of engagement, so that I can stand before men with peace, with absolute faith, with absolute clarity that I'm following him. Because I want to say the internet is not friendly, especially for those of you that like to maybe push the envelope. That is awesome. It needs to be pushed. Ideas need to be expanded, but just do it with as much wisdom as you can muster up today. So that's what I got for you. Don't be afraid of social media. Let's bring the fear of the Lord and the wisdom of heaven into it. I'm pumped. I'll see you around the interwebs.